right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Bob Pompeani here, taking your calls at 412-575-2600. We're on KDKA Plus. We're also on 93.7 The Fan. So if you're driving along, check us out. Chris Mueller up at the Fan right now. And Chris, it was Black Monday yesterday. We normally don't have a Black Tuesday, but today for John Harbaugh, it was exactly that. Apparently, according to reports down in Baltimore, that he lost the locker room, specifically Lamar Jackson. We had heard some things coming over the last couple of weeks. So your thoughts on a guy who spent 18 years in this league, very impressive resume, and certainly if he wants, will get opportunities. We'll talk about where one might be the best one for him, but your thoughts overall about them making a change.
Well, he instantly becomes the best coaching candidate on the market, and I say that as somebody that thought he terminally outthought himself when he was playing Mike Tomlin specifically, wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. I do think it sort of underlines the fact that the Ravens are not a team that is going to be beholden to a coach. He's got more playoff wins than Mike Tomlin, a better playoff winning percentage. He's got a nearly identical regular season winning percentage, and he had been on the job for a similarly long time, second longest tenured coach in the league. And when Baltimore decided they just weren't getting enough ROI, even though they just signed him to a 3-year extension 9 months ago, they said it's time. So I would applaud Steve Bisciotti, their owner, for taking decisive action. Jackson's the franchise there, Bob, and that wasn't going to change. If he's healthy, they are a very, very dangerous team. He clearly wasn't down the stretch this year, but I think they're probably going to be the most desirable location. Not only is Harbaugh going to be the biggest name on the market now, but if you're a coach if you're a candidate, you want to get interviewed by the Ravens because the owner is generally pretty patient, the front office is stable, and you still have a guy in his late 20s who, when he's healthy, is an MVP-level player at quarterback.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And, it's interesting. If that kick by Tyler Loop goes through, then this does not happen, and you wonder the ramifications on the other side of it. But let's talk a little bit about where Harbaugh might end up because, as you said, no shortage. I think a team like New York, which has struggled to find any consistency. I think they've had like 7 coaches in 9 years. They let go Brian Daboll, and they have a good young quarterback, it appears, in Jackson Dart. If I'm a guy like Harbaugh, I'm looking for a guy who has a quarterback, a young one that I could kind of develop as time goes on.
I think the one problem with the Giants is that I have zero faith after watching Dart this year. This will not make Joe Starkey very happy. He might even find out I said this and get mad at me, but I have no faith that Jackson Dart can even stay healthy for an entire NFL season. How many times has he been in the concussion protocol this year? 5, 6? I don't think that's an exaggeration.
No, it's like Tua back in the day when he first started in a couple years in Miami.
Right. And so, yeah, that would be appealing if you think Dart is the guy, but Dart's got to stay healthy. The team, I know this won't happen because Harbaugh will have his pick of jobs and he will not take it.
Make him go to Cleveland.
Well, I mean that, though. Like, if the perception, and understandably so and deservedly so, that they have earned through the way Jimmy Haslam has run them is that they are kind of a clown circus here, and Andrew Berry gets to stay, but Kevin Stefanski has to go, and Haslam's the guy at the top. If you've got a level of organizational dysfunction permeating the whole thing there, you should want Harbaugh around because I do think he's professional. I do think he organizes kind of a coaching hierarchy pretty well. And he would give them some gravitas, but he's not going to want that job. But they should want him. They should back up a Brinks truck for him in Cleveland. I'll tell you this much, Bob. There is a guy at the top of my list that, as a Steelers fan, and I think as everybody watching this is probably a Steelers fan, you should want to see not take that Baltimore job if it's offered to him, and that is Brian Flores. I think that would be bad news for the rest of the division. I think he's all business. I think he would take that defense and make the whole greater than the sum of the parts. And I think if the Jackson stuff is true, which you can reasonably surmise that Harbaugh may have been leaking to that one Baltimore Sun columnist who was writing that kind of big sort of hit piece about Jackson, if any of that is even partially true that was mentioned in that story, maybe Jackson's the kind of guy who needs a little bit of tough love at this point or needs a new voice in there that's going to get after him. And Flores, reputationally, is absolutely that kind of dude.
Another guy out there is Jesse Minter, although he falls into the defensive category. But for those who always say, well, you need an offensive coach, I get that. That's how the trend is. But at the same time, Mike McDonald's a defensive coach, and he's in 2 years in Seattle has been terrific.
Bob, you need a defensive coach if you hire one that's willing to hire good offensive coaches.
And that's
it's very
what he did
simple.
in Seattle,
It's very simple. I think like here in Pittsburgh, where the offensive coordinator has been a point of frustration for many years until maybe Arthur Smith settled those waters a little bit. The problem is that we all see here that the Steelers have hired a bunch of incredibly uninspiring people to that post, really since Todd Haley up until Arthur Smith. There's 2 guys that inhabit that role that really didn't belong there. Other defensive coaches have gotten it right. They've hired good offensive coordinators and let them do their thing.
We got to take a break. 412-575-2600. Call us. Want to hear from you. We'll do that. We'll also talk a little bit about this matchup coming up with the Texans next Monday, some of the other intriguing matchups, and Evgeny Malkin's about to return to the Penguins after 15 missed games. We'll talk about all that and more, plus your phone calls right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. All right, our Xfinity tweet of the night comes from our friend Alex Kozora, and he says this: by my count during Mike Tomlin's era, 9 coaches have been fired immediately after facing the Steelers. Going back to Romeo Crennel, Eric Mangini, Pat Shurmur, Chudzinski, you got Mike Pettin, you got Hugh Jackson, Brian Billick, Marvin Lewis, and now John Harbaugh. So that's a streak that we don't hear often enough, but that's true. That's happened. This game coming up, Chris, is about streaks. Not only has Houston won 9 in a row in the regular season heading into this, they're also 0-6 now that it involves this team. But they just have not won a road playoff game. They are an indoor team. And on the other side of it, you have the Steelers looking to try to end 8-year drought of playoff wins with none of those, and also 23 straight wins on Monday night. So the whole Monday night will be about streaks.
Yeah, I think obviously the most relevant one, though, at least for me, I guess your mileage may vary, is that the Houston Texans are winners of 9 in a row. This Houston Texans team has won 9 games in a row. I think the Steelers one is impressive on Monday Night Football mainly because it spans so many eras, but I think what that really is a situation where they are usually a pretty good team most years and sometimes are playing less than stellar opponents. Now, it's obviously impressive, but that Houston group has just found their stride. C.J. Stroud has, say that 5 times fast. They found their stride, C.J. Stroud. He has become, I think since, I want to say it's week 8, I was looking it up, Bob, but he has become much more efficient on a per-play basis and been one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I know the numbers aren't eye-popping, but they have just found a formula that I suspect if Mike Tomlin could bottle and emulate himself, he would, which is their defense hammers people. They don't really have to line up and do anything schematically complicated. Tomlin alluded to that because they just have great corners and great edge rushers. They don't turn the ball over. They're best in the league, and they're 3rd best at taking it away. And they make a judicious number of plays with their quarterback and rely on their defense. I suspect if Mike could have the Steelers emulate that perfectly, he would choose to do so.
Yeah, you got some of the best edge rushers in the NFL on display in this game. You know about the Steelers guys, but Hunter, he's been playing for a long time, has over 100 sacks in his career, and of course Will Anderson Jr. is just a maniac out there. So that'll be fun to see in that matchup. Let's go to the phone lines. Chris, got a lot of people want to talk, beginning with our number 1 Cochran Go One Better caller of the week. We go to line 1. That's John in Butler. Hello, John.
Hey, my question is, thanks for taking my call. I want to know, do you play Stroud the same way you play a Lamar Jackson? He's not a runner like Lamar, but he has some similarities.
Well, what I would say to that is Lamar hasn't been running a lot. He does it occasionally, but there are no design runs, very few comparatively. Stroud's not that way either, but he can extend plays, and he may be more mobile because Lamar Jackson was injured this year so much, Chris. So I think that's one thing you have to watch with him. He can break contain. He can do a lot of things that way. But generally, he tries to stay in the pocket and find Nico Collins or Dalton Schultz or any of those guys they have down there.
So I think the present version of Lamar, as you alluded to, isn't looking to run very much and isn't nearly as fast as he usually is, and that actually makes him stylistically a little more like C.J. Stroud, who is not a runner, as the caller correctly pointed out, never really has been. He can move around. He's a decent athlete. but he is looking to scramble to extend plays so that he can throw it. And I think the thing he's going to do that might be a little similar to Lamar is he wants to challenge you at all points down the field. Lamar is an aggressive downfield thrower, especially between the numbers. Stroud, you can't let him break contain and then throw on the run and get into a scramble drill. So for me, it's about collapsing the pocket and probably doing so up the middle pretty quickly on him. And that is not a great, if there's an area of the Texans that I think is still an Achilles heel for them, I do think it is their offensive line collectively. It is not a great line. They don't run the ball that well. So if you're the Steelers and they go with a game script, the Texans that is, offensively, where they're trying to run the ball early on you and you get them into 2nd and long, 3rd and medium, 3rd and long, I think you've got the advantage here, and you can probably make Stroud's life pretty miserable.
Yeah, I think it also works the other way too. If somehow the Steelers find themselves 3rd and long, the defense will tee off on you. But it's funny, that run game, it started with Joe Mixon. He got injured. Not Bradley Chubb. Nick Chubb was down there as the guy.
Just call him Mr. Chubb.
He still calls him Mr. Chubb, yes. Also, you have Woody Marks, who's a 4th-round pick, and he's lion's share the #1 guy right now. So it's interesting how that has developed. Let's go back to the lines. We got Eric in Johnstown joining us right now on the hotline. Hello, Eric.
Hi, Bob. How are you this evening?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say a couple things. The Steelers-Baltimore game Sunday night, this rivalry's been going on for years, but that was one of the best games, I think, of this rivalry. And the other thing I want to bring up was Flowers, the wide receiver for Baltimore. He was in some type of altercation with a fan similar to DK Metcalf in Green Bay, and nothing was done about this. There was no discipline. There was no investigation, I don't think, by the NFL. And he should, I think, go out of game suspension for that, but nothing was talked about this. And I know this occurred in Green Bay with a fan.
Well, I know about the Lamar Jackson one that happened, but I don't remember that specifically, and quite frankly, that's over and done with. The good part about that thing is it's over now, and then DK Metcalf, which leads me to ask you this, Chris, because I think he not only will be targeted, and he should be, he's going to be motivated, he hasn't played in 2 weeks, he's going to be fresh, but also I would assume that Stingley will go with him, and if so, that should create some other opportunities for other guys. How do you think that will all play out?
I mean, I think the corner tandem there, Lassiter being the other one, is so good that the Texans feel like Stingley probably locks Metcalf down, and then Lassiter's going to take somebody else out of the equation. And, man, it feels like if Metcalf's your primary and I guess Calvin Austin's your secondary, this game comes down to your tertiary weapons. Does Pat Freiermuth make plays? I know the Steelers are going to try to do what they've done all year, which is dump it short to the backs and rely on them to force missed tackles, Bob. And that's where I think this game could get very dicey, where the Steelers might have to, they always talk about self-scouting and deciding you're going to play against your own tendencies so that you don't play into the opponent's hands. They might have to do some things differently, because at every level that Texans team wants to come after you. They want to hit you. They are sure tacklers. I know you've watched a lot of their games. I suspect some of our viewers and listeners might not have seen as many. But they go after you, and I do not think the yards after catch thing is going to necessarily be a real viable solution to the Steelers' offensive problems against this particular opponent.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they do wrap people up, although the Steelers are one of the best teams in yak yards, and also, yards after catch. Those running backs have done a very good job. Let's go to Vern in Butler. Hello, Vern.
Hi, Bob and Chris.
What's up?
My question is, with the rumors circulating around, Tomlin and Rooney maybe parting ways, do you really think that either party wants to part ways with hosting the upcoming draft?
Well, if this had gone a different way and they lost out and never got in, I think you might have a different conversation. No, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think, Monday night is important from this point of view. They've had this string where they're getting blown out in the first quarter of games and playoff games, their last several ones. The scores are not indicative of how bad and lopsided they have been. I would expect this to be a really good game, and if so, be it if you win or you lose, but it's going to be a very competitive game. The last thing I would want to see is a blowout early.
I mean, the number is obscene in those playoff games. What the score by quarter has been in the first quarter specifically for the Steelers, I don't even think they've scored. It's up in the 60s or 70s to nothing. As far as that goes, if they get humiliated, I think it's gonna have people calling for Mike's head again. But now that he won this game, now that he got them in, not only is it about the draft, I think for Mike it's about he wants to pass Chuck Noll. And so he's going to stay on the job another year. I think Art Rooney would be playing wildly against type to part ways with Mike after a disastrous playoff loss. I think the last time we figured it out that a guy lost his job after winning double-digit games and winning a division, Marty Schottenheimer went 14-2 and got fired.
I remember that season, yeah. That was the weirdest firing ever, I thought.
I know.
The guy from Detroit who was there.
Games.
He's another guy.
Jim Caldwell.
Jim
Caldwell got. Yeah, he went 9-7. I want to say it was. So that was like winning record. But I think double-digit division winner who got fired after the year was Marty Schottenheimer. I guess they got sick of Marty Ball in a 14-2 season. But Mike's staying, I think, at least one more year. I guess the question, Bob, would be that vaunted option that they have to come to a decision on. If he gets beat badly by the Texans and they're never in the game, do they pick up the option for him?
I would say most likely they will, but we'll see. I think that's part of the next chapter of this whole story, what happens on Monday night. We got to go to a break. We're over time. Come back with more. We have Jim in Pittsburgh. You'll be up next when we come back right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, welcome back. We continue. Bob Pompeani and Mr. Mueller, Chris Mueller up there. Jim in Pittsburgh is on the line right now. Go ahead, Jim.
You guys believe that Kenny Pickett's career is over?
I don't know if it's over. I think there's always a role for somebody to be, third-string quarterback, backup quarterback somewhere. No, I'm not. I don't think it's over. Do you, Chris?
I will say this. Usually the sort of conventional wisdom is if you're a former first-round pick, you're going to get an exponential number of chances, even if you fail, relative to non-first-round picks. Bob, he's been so bad and was so widely seen as like a third-round quality player, even though the Steelers took him where they did. I don't think he's getting a backup job anywhere. I think if he gets a contract, it'll be as a true QB3, which is like a veteran minimum kind of gig. I think it's much closer to being over than not.
All right, before I go, I teased the Penguins earlier. They've won 5 in a row to get back in action on Thursday night. Have a minute left, but Malkin may play in this game, and they've been going pretty well with their lines. They have the top line, which will stay intact. The second line has now Tommy Novak on with Justin Brazeau, along with Anthony Mantha. That's been good. Then they have a kid line with Kindle, Koivunen, McGroarty, or Chinnikov. What do you think happens? Because Malkin's the center. He's got to go up there, and I think the most likely thing is taking Novak off that second line and putting Malkin there.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Mantha and Brazeau have been producing without him there is, shocking. But you have to put him back there because he had, 29 points in his first 26 games. Yep. He was arguably their best player for long stretches of this season when he was healthy. So you put him right back in there, and you rely on him. I think he's still got something to prove, Bob. Yep. And so I think he's going to come right back in and help them along.
All right, Chris, thanks very much as always. That'll do it for us tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow night at 10:35. Thank you guys for watching out there. Call us again tomorrow right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Have a good night.